Thank you, Topi. It's a really good story, I think, and I agree. It's a matter of when it's coming rather than if. So I will speak about Fortum's must-win battle, establish a culture of speed and agility. This is our CEO, Pekka Lundmark. He's talking about how the world is changing, energy is changing, and what our role also needs to be changed. So historically, as everyone knows, we were more like a classic old utility, and what's happening now is a lot, I would say. And it's a fun journey. We started a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, and let's see where it takes us. So what's happening is what impacts us. We started to relook all the mega trends around the world. So it's really affecting our industry, how we work, the people we have inside the company, and our whole corporate strategy had to be relooked, and also what was going on around us. So more be aware of what's happening around us. So we have everything from climate change, resource efficiency, active customers like you, and urbanization, and of course digitalization and new technologies impacted our services and products out to customers. So everything of that made us to relook what is our role. So first of all, we started to look at our role here in how we driving productivity and industry transformation. It's we see us as leading there, and as you know, a couple of names I can mention we have acquired companies is Do1. It's a B2C, B2B company in Poland, and we also acquired Ecochem here in the Nordics, active recycling and waste, and we also acquired Hafslund in Norway, also going into the Norwegian market. We were there in Norway before, but we're also growing that now heavily, especially on the B2C side. So our focus is quite differently than historically. We still have our assets, like I mentioned before. It's crucial for our role as that, but it's more, we are more creating solutions for the other kind of areas. So sustainable cities is one area we are focusing on, and Ecochem is clearly an acquisition pointing out for that. We also grow in solar and wind. Wind is becoming a bigger area for us, and we also build new energy ventures. So what comes along with this? Clearly we need to think different, we need to work differently, especially on the agility side. There's no possibility for us at all to work like historically. We must change processes, we must change the way we work. So that's why we started the must-win battles. The must-win battles is originally a theoretical methodology coming from IMD, a Swiss management school. A lot of companies have applied that. Successfully or less successfully, that depends on how you do it. And but we at least started our change journey a year ago. So we started with spring 2016, new CEO, new corporate strategy, and a new organizational setup. So we also introduced our change management programs. We have 5 of them: customer, speed and agility, which I'm leading, digitalization, volatility, and regulation. I would say all 5 of them are a little bit different in terms of nature and also the area as such. The speed and agility, what I'm going to spend a little bit more talking about here, is more about the way we work, the corporate culture, and how we manage our teams, how we lead, etc., etc. So we have each program is structured with a lead and also an executive sponsor. So top management is heavily closely involved with how we work. But the nice thing with these programs, which I like, is that the teams which are really implementing and coming up with ideas are virtual teams. So it was started like that it was anywhere in the company, a little bit dependent on what kind of ideas you had. And as always, the more, let's say, fast learners and fast, people who are ahead, they were clearly there and were able to really, come with ideas and implement them in the company. So virtual teams were formed, a little bit dependent on who got engaged and then who had the actual change ideas. But the Muslim battle as such is a framework for change, I would say. It acts as catalysts, so it goes across the divisions, across the company, everywhere. But the good thing is that we get a lot of attention what happens in the programs, because when change happens, it should be, let's say, somewhere the MBBs should be there. So now we have been running, like I said, a little bit more than a year. So clearly, everyone knows about it, and people know how to, use the framework. And also acts as role models for working in a more agile way. So clearly that gives a lot, because showing by example triggers a lot of change actually. So peer pressure becomes quite natural in the MBBs. We also have more structured like KPIs measuring of that also. So finding speed and agility in the organization. We are driving a corporate culture change. So I wanted to present for you 3 focus areas which we have for how we considered to establish a culture of speed and agility. The first area is situation awareness, leading to timely, high-quality decisions. So we talked. This was created by kickoffs, workshops, etc. How we came up to these 3 areas. So clearly we had a bunch of ideas, right? And we divided those ideas where we clearly could see what do people think, what we need to change, what's not working good. What do we need to improve? So these 3 areas came up in speed and agility of the absolutely key priorities of what to change. Situation awareness means that we need to understand, we need to be out there. We need to understand how is the world changing for us, and what does it imply for Fortum. So that was clearly an area to improve. Way of working is very wide, of course, but it could be anything. But clearly working more agile, like small examples as a really, it could be, I could clearly see a couple of years ago, you could sit easily, you could be invited to like 2 hours meeting, and the agenda was a little bit fluffy, and you could actually just go in there and think that, what are we talking about and what's the goal? But now we clearly, with Skype and all the digital tools and everything, is a little bit different, of course, but that gives, you can clearly have like 30 minutes, check off, everything is short agenda, and that's how you really move on. So again, role models, having that, and you could clearly see it's a pattern in the company in that sense. Small examples, but also decision-taking, way of working, so also we have a look at that. We have more to do on that side. Lower bureaucracy is, it takes time, but we're closely, so we're getting there. Culture is the third one, leading to highly engaged, empowered, and motivated people. This is the third area, but I would say actually they are clearly linked. The culture, the third one, is key for the other 2, I think. As having situation and being out to present, for example, this collaboration with Teal and so on, it's one of the things that we have to do more of. So clearly you get empowerment from your boss or motivated and so on. And clearly we know that there's a clear link between agility and financial performance of a company, statistically also shown in studies. So that's why we're striving in that direction. So currently we are driving a wide cultural transformation in Fortum, and it's all about people, but also in the end, how we work. So how has it then been? I mean, some challenges, clearly, when we've been working. Working with change is not easy. You get some people, early adapters, quickly with you, and that's fun. Those are the ones you should grab and bring along in your team. And then you have others, a little bit slower. They can also join you, but it will take a little bit more work for you to get that going. So clearly we had some struggling with, let's say, mid-management, typically like in the middle of the organization, to join the change with us. And also how, because those are the ones really important to get those as role models to do our change actions. So, and also letting them give their teams empowerment. So that has to be, that is also one priority, continuously priority area for us during autumn. Also communication, also that can feel simple, but how to communicate the change and get maximum impact is not easy. It's we're working closely with corporate communication and so on, those kind of teams for experts, but all the time having competitions, finding out new ideas how to get more people involved. That's key. So because then you get more and more people doing the new way we want us to move in. So and clearly culture change takes time. It's a transformation trip. We have during springtime implemented some of our new things that we came up with during months before, and now I think when we came back from summer, you see you have a little bit of momentum of the work you did during spring. So we're getting there, but we're going to do a big transformation, continue our transformation this autumn. So with leadership trainings and new things coming up, but it's exciting. But now I think, how can then Fortum leverage on self-managed teams, certain key areas? I could believe in that myself. And also, would it in turn be easier to create change? That is something I'm eager to hear what you think about. And I think some of the framework in the MVBs, the virtual teams, for example, it's quite interesting to see how they have been created. In my group, in my team, where we have worked with speed and agility, it's people from everywhere in the organization. So there's no just coming from a certain area want you to work with change. It comes from everywhere. So it's very individual. Yeah. So that was what I had. And I would really like to have questions from the audience at this point. Yes.
You mentioned there that you had some tackles with middle management.
Yes.
Out of curiosity, I would like to ask that did you remove, because from my experience, it's always easy to show all the, let's say, new directions where to go, but sometimes we don't remove enough the old stuff that we carry around. So did you move some like financial targets or decision-making processes in order to facilitate the change?
Yeah, we did changes on a couple of key processes for financial, like budgeting and forecasting and so on, and we made it, let's say, easier. So that, but it's always, it has to take the time to see the real impact. So it is leaner, but in my world, it could have, we could do more there to make it more leaner. And of course, if that continues to feel, stiff or so, then people, they want to see, the change must be visible. They must feel it. So on a day-to-day, if they feel that, okay, this process is heavy and so on, then of course it's difficult to get them with you, yeah. So, but we can do
sometimes you don't get the efficient end result if you still have the, let's say, the old processes going.
Overlapping, yeah. So that's probably where we are now, I would say. You could see some new implementations elsewhere continued with the old, because it's not that long time we've been up and running with the programs. But they will be running 3 years, these change programs.
It's quite extreme on the, for example, in the case of the AAS, that a single employee can decide on purchasing of a new power plant if advised. So it's kind of like...
It's different levels. Yeah, that's true. Okay, more questions. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mirette Karnas from Wiley. I'm interested because your new CEO started this program. How he and his executives how they are participating
Yes.
in daily basis?
Yes.
And because you must live by your example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
So how do-
that's a really good question. I can tell you about that. We work, the leads who are leading the change management programs work closely with top management because we have one owner in each there. So, but that's actually, in our workshops and sessions, we spend a lot of time on that because we say, you have to do it. Also, you have to change because we can go around and do whatever, but if anyone else sees that it's not happening in the top, like it is, we have that structure today. So it's, but Pekka himself and also a couple of others, top management, are really key in making the change themselves. Very hands-on, actually.
I
Yeah.
can comment. I'm
Yes.
leading the digitalization vastuutalun, and Pekka is the owner. So we basically meet every 3 weeks, one-on-one, discussing only about these things. On top of our
Yeah.
quarterly workshops where we have all the leads and the owners.
Yeah.
So very.
But Pekka is very hands-on with you, Christina, and really showing
Okay.
role model in that.
Yeah.
Yes, I think here. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Björn. I'm EM financing consulting company. We are rather small, only size in Finland, 37 people. My question is, I happen to know Pekka a little bit, been a couple workshops with him. So he bought in the idea heavily, I can guess. I can see that. So he's leading on kind of on the front. So the lady who were in the front asked the first question. That was my question too. But my following question was how do we implement that? And did you have go to the, how would I say, to the hard way? Was it some HR implications in there to get lean?
No, yeah, I can say that. No, but of course, that's also, yeah, exactly. Also, it depends on what road you take. Clearly, so the hard way or more the, let's say, middle way, we try to find the best, suitable way. But of course, in the end of the day, we have to see a change. Also, so we have to turn it around.
But I think, I think it's a really good comment. We still are struggling how do we change our HR processes and all
Yeah.
this to support this change. We are not there yet, but I believe...
But we're working with it. Lena is also
So
here.
I have a second question following that.
Yeah.
To you, I'm talking about culture actually with our HR. I'm a CIO, and this is we are not talking people, we are talking culture. And the person, we are in change too.
Absolutely, yeah.
So please don't take this wrong way, but you don't strike me as a person who is typical startup person. So when was in your personal situation where you are working at Fortum, when did you buy in this idea and why?
Of the change or of the...
Agile.
I have been working, I work myself very agile in my way of working, and I think I've been working with change for a very long time, trying different change management. It's one of my strengths. So that's probably why I work with this today also.
So that's what brought you to Fortum, or did they pick you up here to...
No, I have financial trading background, so I've been in the trading for on the financial side of the portfolio.
Interesting.
Too small.
Yes,
So we're going to.
I think probably, yeah.
You talk about empowering people, but have you considered making the people really powerful so that they don't need to be empowered?
How do you mean with the MBBs or?
To give the people the power to make decisions so they don't have to be empowered. Yeah,
exactly. We are continuously working with that. That has been one of the big things especially on the way of working, on that sub-battle. And that is, of course, also with how we work with leadership. And in the end of the day, it's, of course, with the leaders who steer their team. And that is what we are continuously, during autumn we will have more and more training, so we are trying to really influence that we want to go there, we want to come to that full empowerment. But we often have to be clear coming down in the organization. It's not super easy, but
maybe you can make some space for some teams and try
yes,
in isolation.
Yeah.
That they don't have any kinds of change to the corporation.
Exactly. We have units like that. They have been more freely, so more like a community for startups, technology new ventures, and that has been like that actually.
And remind me that actually in a workshop you all have a chance
Yes,
to
you
come up
can
with
elaborate
ideas.
exactly.
Now the
So this was more, yeah,
final
final
question. You
question.
can pick up one.
Yeah,
And then we go.
please.
Thanks, it's really an interesting case, definitely, of change management. My question is about the change, and where does it come from? And actually, because we're going to the smaller groups, just to understand what you've done so far, and of course what not. The question is, because it sounds a bit like cascading. There's a vision from the top. We work with, if you like, top management teams, and then lower down middle management teams and so on, and then you try to, cascade it down to the people. As such, it sounds a little bit top-down approach, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it of course links with Topi's question about empowerment and bottom-up. How much is there room for bottom-up ideas? What if people come up with ideas that are actually contrary?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the MBBs are completely bottom-up approach. So all of these three areas to focus on how we're going to drive corporate culture change. It was a blank paper a year ago, so there was nothing. So it's teams it's individuals in the company who have come up with the ideas, and then there's of course the corporation and together with the sponsors. But as such, it is the teams and the organization everywhere in the company. So it's an extremely bottom-up MBB. I think sometimes that I would like more employees to understand what kind of opportunity they have, really to implement new changes, new ideas to come up with, to make Fortum better company.
Good, and that was a nice